Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. For today I want us to do decision tree classifier in Python. So I'm going to demonstrate how we can use decision tree classifier to do or make a prediction, and for that I want to use a music file .csv. So for my demonstration here, I'm going to use a sample dataset by the name the music file .csv. So if I open my music file, to see what it contains, it does contain a few records in here. We do see it contains the age column. You can zoom it. It contains the gender column and the junior column. So this gender here is represented in the form of machine learning or machine language. Machine language understands zeros and ones, as you can see, and human beings understands male or female. So in our case here, 1 represent male, 0 represent female. That's an assumption I'm making. I'm gonna also make some assumption. I will be assuming that male between the age of 20 to 25, they like listening to hip hop music, and also gonna make an assumption that male between the ages of 26 to 30, they like listening to jazz music, as you can see. I will also make an assumption that after the age of 30, these men like listening to classic music. Now for women, I'm assuming that at the age of 20 to 25, that is for women, they like listening to dance music. And if they are of age 26 to 30, I'm assuming they like listening to acoustic music. Okay. And I'm assuming just like men, after 30, women like listening to classical music. Now, a point to note here is that this is just a makeup pattern, not the actual representation of reality. It is just a made up to make us understand how to use decision tree classifier. Okay, so we have understood the file. We have to start working on it now. So having known or having an insight of what the music file entails, we can now start working on it. So I want to build an algorithm that will predict for us, say gentleman of age 27, what kind of music he prefers to listen to, or a female of age 23, what do they prefer to listen to, something like that. I hope up to that point it makes some sense. Okay, now the first thing I'm gonna do is to import my pandas as BD. So I'll first import the library, the pandas as bd. Then I use the bd.read method to import my CSV file. So at this point I'm going to import my file onto my worksheet. Okay, so I'll use bd.read underscore CSV. So the name of the file I'm going to import is music.csv. Then I close the bracket. When I run it, I'll be able to see the exact file of the worksheet that I inserted before. Okay, so I want to give a variable name, so I'll call it music underscore data. So that's the variable name I'm going to assign it. So I'm going to use the variable name music data. Now what this has done for us is it has returned for us a data frame, which is a two-dimensional array. As you can see, so it has returned for us a data frame which has a two-dimensional array, which is very similar to Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so this is a clean data set, and I don't necessarily need to do any data cleaning. So I don't see any nulls, so there's no need of doing any data cleaning in it. For that case, I'll skip the bit of cleaning the data and move forward to splitting our data into two separate data sets. So the first data set is going to have two columns. So that is the training set, or the input variables, or you can call it the X variables. Okay, so our input set is going to be the age and the gender. So this is going to be our X variable. So the X variables are independent factors which will influence our output. So our output is going to be our linear, which is actually going to be our Y variable. So we get to see the age and gender is going to affect the kind of music that person is going to listen. So I'll first separate the input from the output. So I'll start by the X variables. Okay, so that means our age and gender are our X variables because they are independent variables, and junior column is going to be our output, which is our dependent variable. So when we train our model, we are going to separate the data set. Okay, so when we train our model, we are going to give it the two separate data set. We shall give our model the input data set, and we shall also give our model the output data set. Now this output data set, which is in this case is the junior column, it does contain our prediction. So we are going to tell our model if we have a user is a 20-year-old. Okay, and this user is a male, then it most likely to listen to hip hop. So once we train our model, then we give it a new input set, e.g. we say to model we have a new user whose age is 21 and the user is a male. So if I look up at my data set, okay, so once we train our model, then we give it a new input set, e.g. we say to a model we have a new user whose age is 21 and the user is a male. So if I look at my data set here, okay, don't have a 21-year-old male, but here we're gonna ask our model that we do have a 21-year-old male, and we ask our model that what kind of junior music would this person would be listening to. Okay, so as you can see in our input data set, we do not have a sample of 21-year-old male. So that's what we are going to ask our model to predict for us, and that is the reason we are going to split this data set into two separate data sets, our input and our output. Okay, now if I want to split this data, first of all, this is what I'm going to do. I will use the drop method. So I'll first use the drop method. Okay, so I'll say music data drop. So I'm going to drop one column, the junior column, and I close the square bracket. Okay, so this code here is going to drop the last column, the junior, leaving the age and gender. Okay, so I can call this so I can assign it a variable x, capital. Okay, run it. So if I call on my x variable, okay, when I call my x variable, we get to see the two columns has been displayed. Okay, so by convention I will allocate this an x to indicate that in my x variable, which is an input data set, I'm going to have all columns excluding the junior column. Okay, now so I've remained with only two columns, that's the age and gender, and I've dropped the junior because my prediction, because that's my prediction, so the junior is my prediction in this case. Okay, so we now have our input set, which includes two columns, which is the age and gender. Okay, and you see it doesn't have the output or the prediction, so we also need to define our output, which is our prediction, and and for our prediction we use a lowercase y. Keep our prediction. Okay, and you say music underscore data. Okay, right, we'll call on variable y. You get to see the column with dependent variable, and it has returned for me one column. Okay, as you can see, this data set contains only the prediction, or I can say the answer. So this column contains only the prediction or the outcome. So up to this point I've prepared my data. Next I want to create a model. Okay, using the Decision Tree Classifier algorithm. As you know, we have so many algorithms, okay, with cons and pros in terms of performance and accuracy. So I'm going to use a very simple algorithm, and that algorithm is the Decision Tree Classifier. Now the good news is we don't need to explicitly code our algorithm, because they are implemented for us in the library called the sklearn. So I will go back to the top here of my worksheet. Okay, and from that sklearn library, so from sklearn sklearn tree, I want to import the Decision Tree Classifier. Okay, so I've already imported my Decision Tree Classifier. So there's some I somewhere. Okay, now sklearn is a package that comes with the sklearn library, and sklearn is the popular machine learning library in Python. Now in this sklearn package we do have a module called a tree. Okay, and in this model we have a class called a Decision Tree Classifier. Now this class here, is the class that implements the decision tree algorithm. Now I want to go ahead and create a new instance of this class. On here I'm going to write a code. Okay, so I'm going to write a code, decision and give it a name, a model. Okay, so now we do have a model, but we need to train this model so it learns the patterns in our data, so that it learns the pattern in our data. So for us to train it, we need to use .fit method. I'm going to use the model .fit. Okay, so now the variable name is model. Okay, so I'm going to use the model .fit. So I want to train it. I will train using the x and y, the x and y variables. Okay, so our x and y variables do hold this data here, so it holds the data contained in this so the x and y contains the data that we had seen earlier. Okay, now if I run this, it will mean we have trained our algorithm with xy variables. So let me run it. Okay, so this means we have trained our algorithm with x and y variable, and what we need to do is we finally need to ask our model to make for us the prediction. So we can ask, what kind of music does a 21-year-old man like to listen? Okay, so before that, let's inspect our data. So you can inspect our data here. So we don't have a sample of 21-year-old male. Okay, so if you want to ask our model to predict the kind of music that 21-year-old likes, it is expected to get or to give us the genre, which is hip-hop. Similarly, you can make a prediction for a 22-year-old female. I expect the model to tell me that she likes the dance music. So we can go ahead and ask the model to make a prediction. So I'll say model predict. Okay, so I'm going to predict a 21-year-old male with a 22-year-old female. Okay, so then I store my prediction and a variable name. The variable name prediction. So to call so if I call on my prediction, so if I call on my prediction, okay, now our model has a prediction, and it is saying that a 21-year-old male will like to listen to hip-hop, and a 22-year-old female will like to listen to dance music. Okay, so I can say the model have successfully made a prediction of the two individuals. Okay, So that's a simple way of using a decision tree classifier to do or to make a prediction. Thank you for watching. See you again in my next video. Goodbye.